Welcome, everybody, to another edition of BTS Live. That stands for Behind the Scenes Live, episode number 28. And as always, I have my partner in crime here, Mark Rogers. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing just great. I'm doing much better right now, as you are, than we were like 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're not going to fool around tonight. We're going to get right into it since we're starting a little late. And I know time is precious. I want to introduce our guest here. And of course, he's frozen, so hopefully he can hear us. That is Mark. That is Pat Muldowney. Pat, can you hear us?
I can. I got you guys loud and clear.
Oh, perfect. Okay. And if you're a little frozen, what are you going to do? Hopefully you'll unfreeze. But your voice is much more important. There you go. You're unfrozen here. So just to provide a little point of introduction here, Pat is the senior manager of social media at Fox Sports. We used to work with Pat at ESPN. Mark is still at ESPN. But we used to work with Pat at Fox Sports, and just to give you a little, this is Fox Sports website. That's what Pat does. I know, Pat. I think you're also on the air. I've seen you on streaming video. Now you started as social media, but now you're out in Hollywood and you're doing all this crazy stuff on video and all that stuff.
I mean, I've caught a lot of inspiration from the two of you. I figured, hey, if this is a thing that Mark Rogers could do, then I could jump in front of the camera every now and then as well.
Oh boy, Mark, he's calling you out.
There goes your grand introduction, Pat. I was working toward a really illustrious introduction for you, but it's shot now.
Well, I mean, I feel like more important before we get to anything else, I just wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate Mark Rogers on the Cleveland Cavaliers NBA championship, bringing one home to Cleveland.
You know, Pat, it's funny because you know what my love, or slightly less than love, for the NBA is and has been for a number of years, but because of my beloved son who loves the NBA, not just the Cavs, loves the sport like you do, I watched start to finish all 7 games. I was in it. I was in it in the first round with the Cavs. I watched more NBA in the last 6 weeks than I've watched in 15 years. And so I felt like I could legitimately bask in the glow and celebrate.
Good. And not to delve too much into a sports rabbit hole, but just while we're on this series, how crazy is it? And this is what's great about sports. This was blowout after blowout after blowout. And the way that this series works out, obviously the Cavs win in 7 games. Do you know what the differential in scoring was between these two teams over 7 games?
I'm going to say 3 points.
4 points. The 4 deciding points that the Cavaliers outscored the Warriors by. It was tied coming into this final game. It's unbelievable. But
hey, Marty, I know we're here for other things, but I got to hit Pat with one other thing. You will love this, Pat. So
sure.
Landry loves the Cavs. There's paraphernalia all over the place and so forth. Buckeyes, Indians, Browns, Cavs. So on Monday, he's still amped. He's fired up. We're having breakfast or lunch, and he mentions that 2 of his buddies, are going to head to the parade. And I said, 2 Cavs fans in Connecticut, really? He goes, well, they're LeBron James fans. Typical NBA people that follow individuals and not the teams. So I mentioned to him, I said, that's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. I know you got to work this week or whatever. He's like, no, I got to work, whatever. So I'm at work that night myself. I get a text from Landry. The car's packed. He's going. So he headed out to the parade, had a big time, loved it.
That's incredible. I gotta say, I'm jealous. Obviously, I'm from Pittsburgh, huge Penguins fan. I live in LA now, but I was in Pittsburgh the day of the parade, but I couldn't be there. I was 13 miles away and I couldn't attend. So I'm happy that your son was able to experience that.
That's pretty good. I was following you on social media there, Pat, with the Pittsburgh story, and you're going back and forth. So that must have been thrilling for you, huh?
Yeah, I really lucked out as far as timing goes. Just the fact that Fox had the 2016 U.S. Open. The U.S. Open happened to be played at Oakmont this past week. I grew up a mile from that course. The Penguins were in the Stanley Cup final, and Game 6 was going to be the day before I had to start work for the U.S. Open. So I got to go back. I went to the Penguins arena, watched the game in the arena with 16,000 other fans in the arena for a game that was happening 2,500 miles away. Timing-wise, it worked out pretty great, and I had a blast. So I lucked out there.
Nice.
So maybe, Pat, this past weekend will give us a really good glimpse into what you do instead of explaining the entirety of the job, but just using this past weekend, a big event for Fox in terms of a major golf championship, the U.S. Open, as you mentioned. So you fly out from Los Angeles to Pittsburgh, and you have to cover the social media aspect of this and organize a ton that I probably can't even begin to relate to. So can you give us an idea of what your responsibilities were last weekend?
So when you look at the U.S. Open coverage for us on the social media side for Fox Sports, we've been planning for about 2 months, getting ready to go into this 4-day tournament, which sounds pretty crazy. But we have a great partnership with the USGA. It's the one major that we have on our air at Fox Sports. So it's huge for us. It's absolutely huge. And for anybody that caught last year, it was Fox's first year in golf. It was at Chambers Bay. The conditions were less than ideal. There was a lot of brown grass, which sounds silly when it comes to production standpoint, but aesthetically, it just didn't look amazing on television. So it was a rough first year. And admittedly, I think everybody on the Fox side will admit, there were some learning curves there. Although there were a lot of people with golf experience, as a whole, we learned a lot last year and came into this year. All of that had to be taken into consideration in our preparation for the social media side of things. How do we manage the messaging? How do we, highlight the changes that we've made this year over last year, taking feedback from viewers, from critics, from the golfers themselves, the conversations that we have with the USGA. And, luckily for us, Oakmont is as picturesque of a golf course as you're going to find in the country, if not the world. And we ended up having a pretty good tournament. For us, the preparation side of things is, what are our digital video rights? What does the USGA have? What are they going to be doing socially versus what we are going to be doing socially? So we met with them, numerous times leading up to it. They actually held all the digital highlight rights for this. But as far as I'm concerned, it's we want to get this out to the fans. So on the social media side of things, we didn't get to host the content, but we were able to share a lot of the stuff that the USGA was clipping. And we were in great communication with them, so if there was a great shot, something they potentially could have missed, we were able to clip it off and send it over to them so they could get it up onto their accounts. And, the beauty of social media is, if you're a diehard golf fan, you're probably going to sit down and watch all 4 days. But if you have a developing story, like what happened with Zach Johnson in the last round, where, was there going to be a penalty? Was there not going to be a penalty? Well, now we can elevate that using our Fox Sports reach in partnership with the USGA to, push this storyline to a bunch of people that might have been paying attention to something else or getting ready for Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So it's what can we do to amplify what's happening on the television, on the linear side of things, digitally, and really try to push that over and increase tune-in.
So golf does not strike me as a social media sport, but of course it's much more mainstream talking not golf, but social media than it was a few years ago. So I'm thinking hip crowd, young crowd when I think social media, but obviously, again, it's gone to the masses in recent years. Knowing sports as well as you do and knowing the differences between fan bases going from sport to sport, was there a different approach? It being golf, because when I think golf, again, I'm thinking Cadillac commercials. That's, I'm thinking older crowd.
Yeah, me too.
And that's the thing is, when people think Fox Sports, they think NFL and Fox. It's Fox NFL Sunday. Amazing UFC coverage. Recently, a ton of soccer coverage, NASCAR. Golf, we haven't aligned with golf, historically, so people don't. Fox Sports and golf had not been synonymous. So we definitely have to be very particular in our messaging, and we have to speak to the golf community. What we would blast out with Terry and Michael and the gang on Sundays is going to be a little different than, Brad Faxon and, Paul Azinger, dissecting, Andrew Landry, this amateur's, amazing first 3 rounds. So it definitely is. We're paying attention to the audience, paying attention to our messaging. But, you'd be surprised. The amount of conversation that was driven around this tournament was absolutely unbelievable. And then the beauty of this is, as we had a little bit of controversy on the last day, like I mentioned, with the Dustin Johnson potential penalty, it was amazing how quickly Rory McIlroy on Twitter, Jordan Spieth, he's on Twitter. Basically, every top 10 player started weighing in, sending tweets. A lot of them disagreed with the way the USGA was deciding to rule on this, but it was that immediacy. It's like Rory didn't make the cut, but still his tweet that he sent the second that this ruling came through ended up on the Fox broadcast and became not only a point of conversation for our broadcasters, but also our talent is able to move that message forward straight from Rory on Twitter to the USGA, who they have on set, and they're discussing the situation. So this was as crazy an ending as that was. It was cool to see social media be able to bridge that gap between golfers, fans, and the broadcast.
Hey, I just want to dip in here just to let everyone know that's watching. We lost both of your pictures, but we can still hear your audio. So I got the cycle up. So just you can continue, Mark.
Hey, Pat, for as much as we would love to sit here and talk sports, talk social media, and the ins and outs of your job, because we could have you on for 10 consecutive weeks and still ask you questions, I know that you've got a bit of a short window in regards to staying on here with us. And the one thing that we're doing from week to week is basically Marty and I are providing tips and advice for startups. So for people that want to stream live, they want to build their own content, their own show, we're providing those tips to get people started, whether they're turning on an iPhone for the first time, trying to record something and upload it to YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or somewhere, or they've established a show for a couple of years, but they just want to be better. They want to up the ante when it comes to production. So we bring you in for the social media aspect. So can you kind of speak to that person out there that wants to up their game on the social media platforms and really make a mark? What should they be keying on? What are those aspects of social media that they could really take advantage of?
I mean, the number one thing, and it's social media and production have just merged into like digital production at this point, and it's just consistency. And I think what you guys are doing is a perfect example of that. Doing it regularly, and as you start to build that audience, have them learn the expected time that they're going to, or the, frequency with which, even if it's not the same time every week, am I going to be providing a show? Am I producing this content once a week? Is this something that's going to happen, Monday through Friday? And, once you start to build that consistency and really have, reasonable expectations for your audience and what they come to expect from you, that's when you start to establish that firm, like a user base. And then from there, that's when you really have the ability to drive through social media to start to grow that audience. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it depending on the platform. And I think the one important thing that, is maybe lost in the strategizing around this stuff is social media is often just looked at as, okay, this is my social media strategy. But to really gain footing, I'm of the opinion, and Mark, I know you've been active on basically every different platform that's out there, is you need to focus on, what is my strategy to grow this on Twitter? On Facebook, what is my strategy? On YouTube, what is my strategy? And I mean, you wouldn't produce a show and just say, let me put it this way. There's a lot of radio shows that translate over, that end up being broadcast as television shows, but there are specific elements that are produced for the TV broadcast there. They don't just dump it out there and just set down one camera and let it go. You have to produce for each platform that you're going to be living on. And, specifically for YouTube, when people see like Periscope and Facebook Live, they're the most easily accessible, live streaming that everybody probably has on their phone, and you're only one click away from broadcasting. But it's really hard to find those after the fact. Periscope goes away after a day, or they're extending the life of it now, so it might last a little longer. Facebook always archives, but you kind of have to go to the page and dig through videos to find it. But we're on YouTube, less people may be going live, but YouTube is owned by Google, and when you talk SEO and people, if we were sitting here talking the NBA draft tonight, it's much more likely that through tagging and optimization, they're going to find that after the fact by having it on YouTube. So that's just obviously just one example, but figuring out what you can do to optimize for every different platform that you decide to broadcast on, and treating them all individually is very important.
What are some of the
guys? Can
Yes.
you just double check your video settings to make sure that your camera is not blacked out on the bottom there? Because that's what happened to me, and maybe that'll restore the video. So we're just, for the folks watching, we're just working on trying to restore the video. We got their audio, but just to make sure. I think I see Pat trying to come back. Mark, if you just check that, make sure that.
Yeah, mine is supposed to be
on.
transmitting.
Okay.
I just clicked mine off and then back on.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you do the same, Mark, just in case.
Yeah, okay.
Switch it off and on, and we'll see if it comes back. And then you guys can continue.
Oh.
If it comes back, I'll put you back on.
Looks like mine did.
All right, there it is. I got you back. And
so, Pat, when you obviously you're connected to a number of content creators, and I'm not talking about on the grand scale. I'm talking about my level of content creator, and you have a lot of friends, myself included, out there. What do you see, and what are some of the faux pas that you see readily out there that people are doing that they need to correct that are really harming their brand or their ability to reach and influence people?
I think the number one thing is in this environment is people treating it as a one-way street, where this is my content, this is what I'm creating, and this is what I'm putting out there. I mean, that was great even 10 years ago when we were just producing television, and it really at the time was a one-way street. But now, I mean, the importance of and the benefit to doing this is you have the ability to make it, to receive comments in real time, to take feedback prior to the start of the show, afterwards, hey, what did you guys like about that? What could we have done better? What other I mean, you can do an entire, viewer-driven show based on just driving conversation prior to the start of the broadcast. And, just viewer engagement, like far more than anything else is, in my opinion, the number one factor when it comes to retention. Because, I mean, that's the thing, like even doing this with you guys, like my phone is next to me right here and I'm not on it. My phone is off. This is probably the longest I've gone without checking my phone in quite some time. But, if I wanted to check the NBA draft, like what's going on real time, I could, because we always have access to something else. And that's the thing to keep in mind. What do I have to do retention wise to keep people from looking away? And even when I'm talking to my girlfriend, like I always have to be like, hey, I'm like a human notification. I'm like, hey, I'm still here. Hey, I'm still here. Because it's so easily for all of us. There's so much happening, and viewer engagement and like follower engagement, listener engagement, whatever platform you're delivering on, making people feel like they're part of the process is far and away the number one thing, in my opinion, for this new form of broadcast.
Hey, Pat, I know.
Before you go, Mark, just to reiterate, you can see Mark's here, I'm here, we're having a little trouble with his video, just to let you guys know. Discussion's really good. We're going to keep going with this, as long as we can. Hopefully Pat will pop back, bandwidth issues, whatever. But again, I just wanted to explain why you're seeing what you're seeing. Anyways, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to hit you with one other thing, and we'll let you go. We know you need to get to the NBA draft, and who knows what else you've got going on as well, Pat. So is there one platform out there? Is there one strategy? Is there something that maybe not many of us know about right now that you think could be the next big thing, the thing that most of us need to jump on or be aware of next?
I would say, as far as it's a the age-old saying, fish where the fish are, and I'm truly a believer right now for the current ecosystem that we're living in, to taking your product and what you're doing to Facebook Live and even to Periscope. I mean, that would be my number one point of advice. I know there was a lot of news that came out this week, like Facebook, paying some partners and some broadcasting companies and some athletes and celebrities to use their product. And, people can have the opinions that they will on that, but I mean, like, step back and look big picture. That means that Facebook is really investing in this product, and it's something that's likely a huge priority for them, and it's not going away anytime soon. So
hey,
when you...
Oh, I'm sorry. I got some breaking news on that since you're talking about Facebook Live. I'm not sure if you saw it, Pat, but VidCon's going on right now in LA, and apparently, according to TechCrunch, they announced enhancement to their service, including having two people on the screen at the same time, so you can invite a person in to your Facebook Live video, either for an interview or just a chat among two people. Also, they announced for a green room as well, so folks that do actual shows on Facebook Live will be able to get people in without going live, and then kind of get out there live when they push the button. I think that was a complaint before of people, since when we go to Facebook Live, even for this show, you have to start it and go live, and that's all there is to it. And a lot of people, that's all they use is Facebook Live. So that'll be interesting. They're rolling out the verified platforms by the end of the summer, and then everyone else after that. So that'll be interesting. Have you seen any uptake as far? I mean, I know you guys have been doing stuff, and you've been on the air as well on the digital platforms. Have you, do you see these enhancements? I know obviously Facebook is all in on this, but do you see this affecting in any way the major broadcasters, at the Fox level, their ESPN level?
Yeah, 100%. We, as soon as you could go live from a cell phone, we here at Fox Sports, we started doing that. So we started doing Facebook Live, 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. For us, if nothing else, it was like, we're going to get our reps, and we're going to figure out what goes wrong and how to fix it once it goes wrong and how we can maximize this. And then, Marty, as you mentioned, once Facebook opened up their API where we're able to, take 3 cameras and some graphics and some audio and, roll in some video all through a switcher and, really have a fully produced broadcast that's broadcast straight directly to Facebook, we're all in on that as well. And then another thing that I don't know has been done when you talk on the level of Fox Sports, ESPN, NBC Sports, CBS, and the other people in this space. Last week was the launch of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock's new show on FS1, Speak for Yourself. And it was on the air Monday through Thursday. It was an abridged week. I think it was the U.S. Open coverage or something on Friday, or maybe it was NASCAR. But that show, the show that aired on linear television, also aired live on Facebook from 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, which I believe was the first time that had ever happened. And it was done basically as a stunt, raise awareness. Hey, we got a new show. There's a lot of, I guess the big component to this is managing like affiliate rights, where you can't necessarily just take what you're putting on linear TV and stream it, unauthenticated onto Facebook. But it was a good experience for us. We learned a lot from it. The audience was pretty good. And again, at this point, we're not asking people to flip on FS1 to see the show. We're like, hey, you're already looking at your pictures on Facebook. Who liked your status? Oh, also here's a live TV show that you can tune into.
Yeah, it's you're going to where the people are. So I mean, obviously, a lot of the younger audience is on mobile devices. In fact, mobile is screen number 1 for them. Especially on their phones. And so you're going to go there. That's interesting that you say that, Pat, as far as experimenting with a simulcast, because I would suspect that a lot of these networks, ESPN, Fox Sports, the mainstream networks, the news networks. In fact, I don't know if most people were aware in the past. Yesterday actually happened where they had the demonstration on the floor of the House of Representatives with the Democrats staging the sit-in. The Republicans shut off the C-SPAN cameras. But what does the Democrats do? They have phones in their pockets. They just stream it out to Facebook Live. CNN picks it up from a congressman and actually restreams it on their CNN Live Facebook Live feed, which was phenomenal. In fact, I watched it too. I mean, that's an example of the streaming anywhere technology, a great use case of that, because you're not going to get a full camera crew. You had a camera crew in there with C-SPAN. And now the control is with the individual. I mean, everyone has a studio in their pocket. So for those times, it works really, really well. And if that's the only camera there, then that's the best camera. It's always like when photographers say the best camera that you have is the one that you have with you, whether that's a fancy DSLR or an iPhone. So I'm not sure if you saw that, Mark, but this is really moving fast, and that was a really prime example of this stuff. And the media companies, I think, are waking up to that. CNN was all over it, which I couldn't believe it. They were literally restreaming someone else's stream.
Actually, Marty, with one ear, I was listening to that story and the information, and I caught it all. With the other ear, I was basically, in my mind, was thinking, I think there's a reason you put me in the middle of you two, is I'm kind of sandwiched by 2 social media heavyweights, and I'm just like shrinking in my chair here.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed. Too bad Pat's video is not up, because he looks great on video. He does it for Fox Sports, and I'm disappointed. I can't believe his video's not working. But it worked for a while there, which was great.
I'm only on the Wi-Fi at Fox Sports Digital. God forbid this actually.
Okay. See that at least that makes me feel a little better because I'm thinking, what am I doing here? Why isn't that not working? Because it works great with Mark. So I mean, Pat. We'll definitely. We want to respect your time. We're going to get you out of here, but we definitely want to have you back. Maybe in a time where maybe you can do it from home, or we'll get you somewhere where you have a little better bandwidth. I totally get it. We've been there. With the Wi-Fi is not optimal, and with this three-way Skype, it's a little challenging, certainly to say the least. But the information, judging from the chat room, and I want to thank the folks in the chat room for hanging with us through our bandwidth issues. Mark,
Pat, I think you get a little feel here that for the last 28 weeks now, this has been like a mad scientist crafting this week by week, adding this, experimenting with this. It's something different every week that he does.
Well, see, and that's the beauty of like what you guys are doing is, the more you do this, the more you learn what your capabilities are. Because I'm sure, Marty, wherever you guys started with this, 30 weeks in, 40 episodes in, you're going to be doing things that had you suggested to week one, Marty, you'd be doing. You'd be like, that guy's crazy. I don't know what he's talking about. But I mean, it's awesome to see how far you can push your limitations with this stuff.
See, both of you guys work in television as I used to, and you work at the network level. So it's great to have people on that totally get what is going on behind the scenes here. No pun intended. And we're pushing limits here, and folks even watching it. I mean, lots of times we do this show. One of the reasons why we do the show is to show what it's like behind and in front of the camera, and even when things don't go right, and trying to explain why things are happening. And I think your explanation of being on Wi-Fi, and that's really the only choice you have from where you are, Pat, right there. But obviously, direct connection and this and that. So those are some of the challenges. And it's funny because we have people in our Facebook group and watching that are just new to video, and I think once they get into it, I think they're amazed that, oh man, I didn't realize how much work this is and how many things are going on at the same time and how many things you got to be aware of. I mean, Mark and I, how it is even at ESPN. I'm sure you go through the same fire drill at Fox where all the contingency plans and people don't see 90% of what you do. They only see the 10% that hits the air. So kind of the same thing here. So it's great to have you guys on and kind of understand kind of what we're going through with how we build this show. And Mark is absolutely, I'm like a mad scientist, I guess, doing the $3.
And Pat, while Marty's rolling up his sleeves every week and practically working out logarithms to make this thing work and stream to 6 different platforms, and you were talking about the progression of that and the build out of that each and every week, I'm pretty much showing up and doing what I did in week 1. I get the camera to work and I start talking. This is pretty much what I do. This is my contribution to the show right here.
Yeah, but you also know like what Ricky Henderson's batting average was in his 4th year in the league 4 months into the season. So I mean, that's not a thing that you can come prepared for.
Walking encyclopedia. Pat, you remember those days where we would throw him like a batting average and he'd just come up with a player. I mean, lifetime batting average 328. Oh, it's like Ted Williams or whoever it happens to be. I mean, it's ridiculous.
See, it was great. I was finishing up my master's program. Marty, when you guys offered me the internship at ESPN, I came in knowing that I knew everything about sports, and then I met Mark and realized that I knew nothing about anything. So that was phenomenal. But like you're talking about the troubleshooting here, and bringing this full circle. So I was at the U.S. Open this past week and working with Fox. I remember when I was still with ESPN, and in what we were all doing at the time, a lot of it was troubleshooting when things went wrong. If we lost a feed coming in. And I remember Scott Van Pelt was doing SportsCenter at the U.S. Open, and we lost the incoming feed from the U.S. Open. And I think I was working on the ESPN network at the time, in communication with the truck at site, and all of their feeds went down. And that is exactly what what we're dealing with now, just through whether it's an internet connection and it's really parallel to what broadcast does. Like you said, obviously there's most of the broadcasts that you're seeing, there's multi-million-dollar backup plans and infrastructure put into place. But this really is, and that's why I can't encourage people, whether it's a startup, somebody in college, whatever it might be, to do this as much as you can. Because when you start to be self-sufficient and learn the processes of this and learn how to troubleshoot, when you do get that break, when you end up working at that network or whatever networks turn into 10 years down the road, you're going to be prepared because you've already done it all. And it's, like you said, Marty, as the technology gets more advanced and we've all got it, on a smartphone in our pocket, there's really no limitation to what you could be doing.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Pat, that these things happen at the highest levels with millions of dollars worth of redundancy built in, multiple feeds, multiple redundant feeds, fiber feeds, satellite feeds, all kinds of different things to happen. We're just working off, regular bandwidth on Skype, and we're having a little difficulty, with your signal. But our setup is a lot less than the network level, and it just goes to show you that even happens at the network level, even with all the plans in place. And I think the key there for folks that want to produce video and want to do a great job at it is keep plugging away, prepare as much as you can, mitigate what you can. If have backup plans in place. So the prime example today is when we lost both Mark and Pat's video, I had a cycle, basically a video cycle, meaning that it's a repeating video, moving video, that I was able to put something up in the video and then prepare a quick lower third. I had a template all ready to go. Quick lower third, I'm able to put that up there. Mark knows. I mean, we, at ESPN, when things go wrong, you call the graphics and you get something up in place, and sometimes it's a fire drill, but you're trying to mitigate things and trying to have things in place. So if you did lose video, then you'd have something at least to put up in the video slot. And then, Mark was able to reset his video and come back. But these are things that happen. And the key is, we pushed forward today because the information was so good. And also we learn about bandwidth, and hopefully you guys take this too, that this stuff's not easy. There's a lot of fail points, and bandwidth is certainly one of them. And again, you want to mitigate. So whenever you can, you want to have the wired connection. You don't want to run too many things on your computer. Now Pat's situation is a little bit unique because he's actually at work. He's only got a Wi-Fi connection. Not much we could do. Pat, we'll definitely have to have you back. Maybe from home when you get, when you have a better connection, because I want to do this justice as far as having you on and making sure people can see you, as you talk, because this subject, we can go on and on about this subject. It's just a great topic, and with all the news going on with streaming video, I think it's something that we need to do another show about, certainly when you're not preparing for the NBA draft, of course.
Yeah, when you look at it, and that's the thing, it's the beauty is you could almost have this conversation every week. And Marty, like the updates you just provided for Facebook Live, which I hadn't seen, and I was talking to our contacts at Facebook earlier today, and I didn't even know that. But that's, you could have this same conversation week over week, and it's going to change. And as they're adding that new feature, and I'm sure you're familiar with, but if everybody hasn't, like the Mevo camera that's coming out, the first camera dedicated, really created for Facebook Live, where it is a studio production on a cell phone. You can take multiple camera shots just by pinching and zooming on your touchscreen smartphone. It's absolutely, you can run graphics, you can have it. It's absolutely unbelievable the capabilities that this thing is going to have. And it really takes this, this is why none of us are going to ever have jobs in the future. But it used to take, 200 people to put on a multi-camera broadcast from a studio, and now, 2 people can do it. So.
Oh, absolutely. Mark, yeah, anything before I go into the promo section?
No, I think I've squeezed him dry for now.
Absolutely. Before we let Pat go, and remind everyone that we are on btslive.com. You can see the show. You can see us when we're live at this website, btslive.com. We also run our replays 24/7. We're always streaming here. We had the chat room going. I want to thank everyone in the chat room. They were great even through our bandwidth difficulties. Also want to make people aware that we do have a Facebook group that is available at facebook.com. Oops, wait. Make sure we got that. Facebook.com/groups/BTS Live Show. If you're not part of the group, we invite you to be part of that. Great group of people in there. Great discussion going on. I can flip through. You got Walter in there. You got all kinds of stuff being posted in there. A lot of good discussion going on there. Also want to make people aware that we do have an email list. And that can be accessed at bit.ly/BTS email. And the reason I bring this up is And people have been great signing up, and I certainly won't spam you. I haven't sent out any email, but really is to make sure that we have contact with our audience and to keep you guys abreast of the schedule. If we have any special shows, special behind the scenes type of stuff outside of the Facebook group and the live shows. But it's good to have that email connection with everyone. So I invite you, if you're not part of that group, bit.ly/BTS email, bit.ly/BTS email, and that'll get you the sign up form, and you'll be rocking and rolling. I do want to mention Mark's YouTube channel. That is available at youtube.com/user/Mark Rogers TV. Mark, you do many live shows there. In fact, you were live earlier today with Macy Golder before this show, and I think you go live at 9 o'clock. Why don't you kind of talk about what you're doing at 9?
Yeah, so we're talking UCLA football with Mike Regalado. He writes for Fansided, and then we were talking some Texas Tech football right after that with an SB Nation blogger, Hunter Cook from Viva the Matadors. Want to draw some attention for college football fans. We're breaking down just about every position across the country, and also had a very interesting talk with Phil Steele. So if you're a college football fan, you probably know who Phil Steele is. He writes the preeminent college football preview magazine each and every year, and he was nice enough to join us a few days ago. So that video is posted on my YouTube channel as well. Excellent.
And just want to also mention my friend, our good friend Stephen Haywood, and the techbuzz.net. Stephen does a couple shows every week, Mondays and Tuesdays, the weekly roundoff on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, unless he's going fishing, which sometimes he does. And Tuesday broadcast now at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm frequently on both of those shows. But check Stephen out. Great guy. Also someone I get a lot of inspiration from. Everything I'm doing is really inspired by what he's doing. He also broadcasts 24/7 on the techbuzz.net/live, all those shows, at least his recent shows, and he goes live and he goes to multiple destinations. So and of course, let me go back here and show you what just came back at the end of the show. Pat Muldowney's video came back.
There it is.
So Pat, right now you're frozen, but at least your picture's back. So there you go. That figures, right?
See, and as you can see me looking up, I just while you were going through your promos, I went and I shared the live video on Facebook while you were going through that. So
there you see, multitasking. There you go. See, now we lost him. So there you go. Want to thank Pat Muldowney for being our guest. In fact, let me take off this. Pat Muldowney. He is on Twitter at Pat Muldowney. And I just took your link off of Twitter, Instagram.com/Pat Muldowney. He's very prolific with the photographs on Instagram. Mark Rogers, want to thank Mark again. Mark's at Mark Rogers TV on Twitter, and MarkRogersTV.com and BTSLive.com, and also the YouTube channel. And myself, I'm Marty McPadden. I'm at Marty McPadden pretty much everywhere. Podjam TV is my business site, and BTS Live is where you can see this show. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Hopefully we'll have less bandwidth issues next week. And until then, we will see you again next week, everyone. Thanks a lot.